just in this context, there's this whole aspect around windowing, and this is particularly more relevant given the advent of digital, right? And there are conversations happening, particularly with Hollywood studios, to say, can we do a day and date release on digital or close enough? How do you view that? And what do you see potentially as pluses and minuses of something like that happening?
The end date would destroy the theatrical possibilities. We now have, of course, partners like Amazon who have entered the frame.
Yeah.
And of course, there is an internal deal about when we can go digital with the film. There's also the satellite transmission that is critical.
Right.
There's then the digital. There is also the theatrical you have to look at. So things have changed. The climate, as we call it, has changed drastically.
Right.
None of these were like impediments earlier. And now you have to think that, okay, we'll go digital first and then we'll go television, or vice versa. It depends. We have to kind of keep. But it is impacting. Definitely, there's additional revenue because now you have digital money coming in as well, which is an additional form of your recovery. We earlier had the music. We had theatrical distribution, diaspora and India, and we had satellite. Now we have digital. So it's an add-on. But there are other ramifications and repercussions.
So moving on, right? So post theatrical release, right now, and this is I guess where really social media comes in, and the impact of social media, the fact that reviews, views, responses are really real time. Again, as a filmmaker, what does this really mean for you? And how do you react to such responses with social media comments and reviews happening?
I mean, it's very scary because we're the only industry, I would say the only business where what we do gets judged globally on that morning. I mean, immediately you have like content being filtered through all social media platforms, be it Twitter, Facebook, and other such platforms that are lesser perhaps, but exist. It's ridiculously scary for a filmmaker who nobody else. You launch a product anywhere else in the world, it takes a week, 2 weeks, a month, some months for it to really kind of get some kind of feedback. Here you release a film and millions of people are talking about your work on day one. You have people live tweeting now, so who's watching films anymore? People are live tweeting reviews. I've never heard of something more ridiculous. Because how can you be tweeting about a film while watching it and yet feel the experience of the cinema viewing? So it's scary, I mean, and then of course you have trolling on Twitter, you open your mouth and you have like 3 million people who have opinions who kind of go at you. You have to have nerves of steel to exist in this digital age, to exist in this age of social media. To be on Twitter and be a celebrity, let me tell you, is no fun at all. Because you have dark, deep, unhappy people venting their deepest, darkest insecurities and lumbering it on you, literally thrusting it on you, and all you have to do is
trolling, and there's no way to get back at them.
You don't know them. They're faceless, they're nameless, and you just are vulnerable. There is nothing else you can do.
Scary. Then let me, I guess, talk about maybe a couple of more other sort of aspects which I guess potentially has sort of risks placing limitations around creativity. One of them is around big data and data analytics and the kind of I guess efforts that are being put in around analytics to really figure out what's the kind of content a user really likes to watch, and particularly around, say for example, something like a Netflix, which has got an abundance of data around what was the kind of content a user watches, which then determines the kind of movies and content they make. How do you see that?
I don't understand data. Of course, as I said, relevance is the order of the day. So I remain relevant by, of course, listening to research, listening to all the data that comes in. But I still don't know what my mother wants. So how do I know what the average Indian wants? It's really difficult to kind of analyze it. You keep getting TG, this is your TG, male skew, female skew, family skew, 18 to 34, is your 18 to 24 is one TG, 35 to 44 is your second TG.
Right.
Below that, of course, there's something called QC, there's something called ESP, and these are all given to you. We have a leading research and analytical group called ORMAX. That gives us FBO, as in first day box office predictions, and we start hyperventilating about that number because we have it.
So how often have they been right?
They're quite right. I have to say, in the last couple of years, they've been bang on.
Right.
But somehow that fun of discovery of your early morning release in the movie, or the movie feel, like when you have a morning of release and you like has my film received? Somehow you already are expecting a range.
Right.
So sometimes you're open to disappointment or then open to fear. One of the two keep happening in your zone. It's a bit scary. All that is a bit scary. So it's daunting. It's sometimes, but you get the data and you get something called reach. You have reach, interest, appeal, buzz.
Right.
These are the parameters.
Right.
So sometimes I try to ask myself, what is the difference between appeal and interest?
Right.
And I've understood that appeal is like told data, and interest is when you're not told, and then you give whether you
Right.
want to see the film or not.
Right.
So there's a difference between appeal and interest. Where I come from, appeal and interest being the same thing.
Right.
And reach and buzz, I said, what is the difference between that? So there is, and the guys who do it, understand it, and are probably all right because they've been bang on for a lot of years,
Right.
90% success rate, which is great. But it's daunting for a filmmaker where we are sitting with all this data. All you made is a film. You made a film with your heart, you made a film with your conviction, and then you have like corporate heads telling you all this, and they're making sense, which is so annoying. Because sometimes like they are breaking it down, and yes, sometimes you could be poetic and romantic and romanticize the situation and say, look, we don't need to listen, this is my conviction, but it's not my money.
Right.
How can I have conviction? If I had my own money, I wouldn't need to listen to anybody.
Right.
If I was just putting my own money and putting it on chance, of course I can do what I want. But the moment somebody else's money is riding on you, and you're accountable, and you bloody well listen to reach, availability, accessibility, interest, appeal, whatever the hell they tell you, you have to listen to it and act accordingly. Then suddenly I'm told like, oh, your male skew needs to increase. So I'm like, what do I do? Put more men in my film. No, it doesn't work like that. You probably have to kind of then make sure you amplify the female reach, so that reaches a high enough number. So there are organic, there are holistic ways of looking at everything, and you have to just do what you do.
Fair. The last thing I also, sort of similar context is, so with Fast and Furious there was this, situation where, post Paul Walker was dead. The last few scenes they actually recreated his image through CGI, right? And and he was therefore shown as being present in those scenes. People are saying, does this mean 5-10 years down the line, when the technology evolves enough, will that be the death of actors?
I don't think so.
Right.
It's like saying digital came and film died.
Right.
No, the actors will never die. They are the crowning glory of our cinema, especially in India. They're mega movie stars. We love them, we adore them, we put them up on pedestals, we like them to keep them there. No computer graphic can take away the magic and magnitude of movie stardom.
Right.
I don't think that can ever go, and I don't think we want it to either. Yes, what happened with Paul Walker was unfortunate, and the usage again for emotional connection with the character, and how they used it towards the end of the film, just because you wanted to say that final goodbye to an actor who was part of a franchise. Brilliant usage, emotional. I was moved in Fast and Furious for the first time in my entire life. I couldn't believe I had a tear in my eye.
Emotional is not what you would connect with that movie.
You don't. And yet you had a tear in your eye. And that film went on to break every Fast and the Furious record. And because there was emotion. And again, it takes me back to where we all began, Girish.
Right.
Is that eventually computer graphic with the use of, with the platform of emotion can really be truly leveraged on a larger level.
Fair enough. Sort of running out of time. Time for questions or? Okay, I guess not. So great. Thank you so much, really for all your insights on this. And I guess things as technology evolves will get both very interesting as also more challenging, as things progress. Right?
But it is digital is the future, and I think walking the digital path is, I think, the order of the day. And I bless film always, and I hope that digital will have its hand on film forever.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your insights and your time.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Once again, a big thank you to Mr. Karan Johar and Mr. Girish Menon for the fireside chat. We didn't have a fire, but we had a lot going. Gentlemen, if you could stay on stage for a couple of seconds, I'd like to invite Archana Tiwari Naidu, Head Content TCL, to give away a memento as a token of appreciation to Mr. Karan Johar. And also to Mr. Girish Menon. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Archana. It is my honor now to invite on the dais Mr. V.K. Kauvam, Principal Secretary, Directorate of IT, Government of Maharashtra, to deliver the keynote address. Welcome, sir.